This is the sort of task that shell scripting is perfectly suited for. I have a pretty major problem that I want to solve, which is that every time the Aurora Borealis comes to town, I manage to miss it because I forget to check on this little website here that conveniently gives you all of the forecast information and all the data you could possibly want. But you see, it's a website, and I'm not very good at checking websites. So what I need to do, I need to get the data off of this website and put it in my desktop in such a convenient format that I will never miss it again. And it's only actually going to show up as a widget in my status bar here if there is anything to worry about. If there's an actual chance of the Aurora showing up tonight, then it will be there. Otherwise, it's not even there. I don't even have to worry about it. And it gives me all of the data I could possibly want from that site. So this sort of thing, this concept, right? You can apply this to any site where you're trying to pull data off of the site, format it, and then display it on your desktop or in your status bar or in your terminal, wherever you want it, right? So I'm going to walk you through start to finish exactly what I'm doing in this script here. To start with, what this website is in the first place, this is the NWS Aurora dashboard. So essentially, this is just Aurora information centered towards the United States with stuff like KP value, geomagnetic information, the actual projected places of where it's going to be, the, current location of where it's at this moment in time, all of that sort of stuff, basically all the information I could want. And it conveniently offers you a nice little index of all of the data on the site. Now, you'll usually find with these sorts of scientific websites, they will either give you an API that you can interface with or an index of the data, but worst case, you could just get the literal URLs of these images here, right? But in this case, we've got an index to just browse through, and you can see there's all sorts of stuff to see. Like, there's a ton of images of like all sorts of various things, right? So you could get whatever you want off of this site. I have a few images in particular that I'd like to get, as well as some text files, right? So let's start with this text file in particular, because what this has in it, it has the KP index forecast, and that's actually the number that I want to pull for my status bar, because how KP values work, the higher the KP value, the more likely you are to have an Aurora. So high numbers being purple here, higher chance for Aurora, pretty simple, right? So I want to pull this, and I want to pull the highest value for tonight. So the first thing I want to do, I actually want to curl this URL so that I can get this text file. So if I just went ahead and used the curl command just directly, it would go ahead, put that in my terminal. Say I want to save this to a particular file called like aurora.txt. So I could just type aurora.txt, and then I will curl that URL to aurora.txt, and I can cat that out there, right? Aurora.txt, and that's all of the information from that file. So I want to pull for tonight specifically, but you'll notice, okay, a roadblock here is that this is in Universal Time. I'm not in Universal Time. I'm in the Eastern Time Zone. So I have to go ahead and figure out what blocks in terms of these KP values is actually going to apply to tonight for me. So quick little trick, if you don't know the time zone conversion off the top of your head, just use the -d flag on the date command, and you can actually convert it just directly there. So I could do midnight Universal Time. That's going to convert to 7 p.m. in my time zone. I actually want just directly 4 p.m. to 7 a.m. since that's going to cover everything for tonight, right? So I want to get this number here, this last number in column number 2 here. This is column 1, 2, 3, 4, right? Last number in column number 2, and then the first 4 numbers in column number 3. So I want to pull those numbers, and then I want to find the maximum number from those numbers. The simplest way to do this, I've tried a number of different ways. Awk, I believe, is the simplest way to do this. You could technically do some long pipeline with like grep and sort and that sort of thing, but I believe that would be way more complex and way more resource intensive. You really just want to use awk for a task like this. Now, I know this awk statement probably looks a little bit complex. Honestly, it looks kind of complex to me, but I'm going to break it down so you can actually understand what's happening in it. To start with, I've got a little mini version of it just to start with, a little piece of it to show you what's happening. So let me go ahead and run this awk command by itself, and you'll see that's actually giving me 2 values. Okay, that's giving me 3 and that's giving me 4. So what is happening in this awk statement? Well, we're going to start with this array called A. A is the name of the array that I'm making. NR actually stands for number of records, which is essentially line numbers, right? So I want to take all of the lines in column number 3 there, and I want to add those to an array called A. Column number 3 is going to be this column that's got January 22nd in it, right? I want to take every single line. So that's gonna encompass the whole file, but that's fine. We don't need to worry about that for now. That's just going to put all of that into an array called A. Now, for the second column, column, so this column right here, the only number I'm actually going to need out of this column is this last number right here, because these numbers before, that's all going to be daytime for me, which I don't need to worry about because the aurora is not visible during the day. So I just need to worry about this one last number in column number 2. So B is going to be equal to $2, which is column 2. Now, importantly, I want to start at the end of the file here. So that way, when B equals $2 for column 2, that's just going to pull this last number from the end of the file. And A is going to be starting at the end of the file. So that way, when I want to go ahead and print some values, say I want to print ANR-7, that's going to go back 7 lines from the end of the file. We actually start at line number 0, I believe. So going back 7 lines, we're going to get 4, and then just printing B by itself, we're going to get 3. So that's how we're printing 3 and 4 right there. So now when I want to go back to this more complex awk command here, right, we're starting with that thing I just showed you. And then what we're doing, we're initializing this variable called val. And we're going to initialize it as B right now because B is just a value of 3. So we're just going to start with that since that's the only thing I'm pulling from column 2, right? And then what I want to do, I want to loop through all of those other values. I want to figure out which one the highest value is, right? So for all of those other values, these 4 values right here, for those values, we're just going to go through them. So NR-7 to NR-4, we're going to loop through them. And then if any of those values are higher than the value that was initialized as value B, then we're going to reset that value variable to be that higher value, right? So then we end up with the maximum value from all of those 5 values from this one and from these 4. From all of those, we're going to end up with the maximum, and then we're just going to print that. And that is the piece of data that I want out of this forecast text file here. So all I need to do then is just send that over to my status bar. I'm just going to use some simple bash string manipulation to strip off those last 2 decimal points. And then when I just run the command Aurora by itself, so just running this shell script by itself, I'm just going to get that value with the little emoji next to it. Unfortunately, there's no Aurora emoji, unfortunately. So I had to use the rainbow emoji. I feel like that fits. And then, so I have 2 values set for a critical value and a threshold value. So threshold is just going to be, if it's anything above this, I want it to display in my status bar in the first place. And if it's anything above critical, I want this extra little sparkles emoji next to it. So that way I know, like, if it's a KP of 9, I better get out there and watch it. So there we've got what is going to actually get output to my status bar. And of course, if the value is like 2 or 1 or something, it just wouldn't be in my status bar. So I wouldn't have to worry about it. So that's the base part of the script. By the way, I am just using DWM blocks here. So I have the ability to just send shell script output to my status bar. I've covered that a number of times. So if you want to figure out how that works, I will like link a video or something like that. So the rest of the script, what is happening with my notifications here so I can actually pull up and get the little graphs and that sort of stuff. So I am saving all of the image files that I want to other files, right? Like I'm just downloading from the URLs that I would like and I'm saving them to a file. And if I actually go to my update function here, I'm just using curl to get those. The S flag on it is just going to be for silent, so no output. And we're just going to curl to the file from the URL that I want, right? Now, what I'm doing to get this little combined image here, this is actually a combined image. The site doesn't directly offer these 2 pieces of, these 2 graphs are not combined on the site. I had to combine them manually. So I'm just using ImageMagick to do this. And this is like the prime usage of ImageMagick, right? You want to use ImageMagick when you have a little script and you just want to, you know, do some basic image manipulation stuff just directly in your script, right? That's what ImageMagick is for. I'm going to combine these 2 images just by using plus append, and then I'm going to write that to a new image called combo. And I'm actually resizing them just so I can get them, you know, sized down just a little bit. So then when I actually have them there, you know, they're at the right size I want. I also have the ability to use different click options to get other images and that sort of stuff. And that's all set up just in my clickable bar commands here. So 1 is going to be for left click, 2 is middle click, 3 is right click, etc. That's just using notify send, and it's using some text in the notification to go ahead, pull that last part of the file. So I have that there next to the images. And that's basically the important stuff going on. I also have a very little thing with MPV just to go through these images if I wanted to. I can just pull that up. That's using MPV to generate an on-the-fly slideshow, which is one of the neat functions of MPV. You can generate a slideshow from some images and it will let you go through those images just directly there. So I have that set up as well, but that's the key stuff happening in this script. So anyways, this sort of concept can be applied to virtually any website where you have the ability to download data and you want to go ahead, display it in your desktop, in your status bar, in a shell script, whatever you want to use the data for, this sort of concept. And this is where shell scripts shine, really. So anyways, I hope you learned something new. I will see you next time. Peace!